Can I explain what I mean?
Yes, you can. Go ahead. Why you the one that just dropped? Okay, so I'll just do another intro. Sorry, we started before I started streaming, but welcome to today's session on brand clarity. Before I came live, we were talking about the difference between branding, brand identity, and a brand. And we were getting feedback from someone telling us the difference between the two, but I think the person got disconnected. I'm not sure. But basically, today we'll be looking at brand clarity. Why do we need to create a memorable brand experience for people so that when we create anything online or offline, they can actually say, oh, this is very on brand with DK. And that has happened to me in the past where somebody came to me and said, oh, DK, do you still design for someone? And I said, no. She now said, oh, that's not in what she's doing is not in brand with what you will be doing. So I just wanted to ask if it was you that has started, that is still designing. And that made me realize that everything you put out there, people can easily recognize it as you and what you do. So we'll be looking at the difference between brand identity, and branding. And I will just give a little explanation about the difference, then we will get into it, basically. So brand is a relationship between the customer and the business. Brand identity is what we can see. It is a design of a business, and branding is a process of building awareness and extending loyalty. So what is just the relationship, which is I see Nike, I see logos, I see all that is the identity. So the identity is what you see, the brand visuals, what we call our brand style guide. So your pictures, your logo, and every other thing is just your brand identity. It's not your brand. Branding is the relationship. So brand is the relationship. So whatever is going on between you and your customer, that is the brand. Then branding is the process of me saying, oh, how do I get my brand in order? How do I get my brand identity? And how do I build awareness for my clients? So when it comes to branding, simply put, your brand is the instant reaction people have about you when your business is mentioned. I'm going to mention a few businesses and you will tell me the first things that come to mind when you think about them. You can just use words or you can just use a sentence. Coca-Cola. What comes to mind when you think of Coca-Cola? Nothing.
Refreshment.
Okay. Disney. Entertainment, excitement. Apple.
Apple. Isn't like the iPhone, Apple.
The product, the company. When you hear Apple, what comes to your mind?
Technology.
Electronics. What else comes to you? What feeling do you have when you hear someone talk about Apple?
Sophisticated, classy.
So when you are not in the room and people talk about your brand, what is that feeling that they have? What is their instant reaction? When I think of Apple, I think best customer service in the world. If you call Apple Care, they take care of what you're going through. Apple is amazing. So that's the instant reaction I have. Someone say Coca-Cola refreshment. Once you think of Coca-Cola, first thing that comes to your mind is refreshment. So when people think about your brand, what is the first thing that comes to mind is what we want to hear about. When you think about my brand, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? It could be because of the way you've seen my page, the way I teach or something. So let's do that as an example. What are the words that come to mind when you think of my brand? If I say, okay, I want you to talk to someone about my brand, what comes to mind first? Anybody can talk. Nothing.
Discipline, training.
It's a military background. Don't blame me.
Is education.
Discipline, training.
Discipline and training.
Like you have to be serious. Like when you are here, you have to be serious. Don't play with your life.
So my brand is strict. That is shocking. All right, what else comes to mind? Everybody.
Like you make sure that people are getting value, and you make sure that you put them in the position where if they don't get value, you blame themselves for it. It's not like other master classes. I'm serious. This am I talking too much?
No,
No,
yeah,
no. Just feel free.
Like
yes.
it's because I feel like us that master classes is just maybe just get there. Nobody is. This is the first time I'm seeing accountability with things, and again and again. It's not just you're not just saying it once. I think you also understand that why you are here, in something. You get so for me, if I'm to push the gospel to someone, I'll be like, see, in this thing, you have to if you take your time, but you learn something, and our guide is serious. If you are not serious, don't even come at all. I
Okay,
submitted.
fantastic. Okay, thank you for the fact that you reminded me that I'm a military child and I have discipline. Well, yes. What else comes to mind when you think of TK Jonah, the brand?
Consistency and is educative.
Consistency and educative. What else? These are not the ones I was expecting, but good.
You can
What
do
else?
it yourself. DIY. Simplicity.
Eh?
Simplicity, and you can do it yourself.
Yes, simplicity, and you can do it yourself. That shows that those people have worked with me. Person that shouting clarity. No, yes, I'm always shouting brand clarity. Yes,
What to
good.
do, Mumbo?
Mumbo, what are we waiting for? All right, yes, I think that's one thing you want to do for people. You want a situation where when you're not in the room and somebody's talking about your brand, you've created that brand experience and you've communicated it. There's a difference between me saying this is what I want my brand to stand for: clarity, simplicity, teaching people to do it in themselves, to believe in themselves so that they are disciplined enough to take actions and they are accountable. I have put that in DIY branding behind the scenes. Now, someone else outside looking in, what do they see? There's a difference between what I intend for people to experience and their actual experience. So some people will say, oh, I want people to experience peace. I want people to feel calm. Those are words I use for my brand. I want people to feel that there's no pressure, but you have to work. I want to make it simple, but not easy. Those are words I've used behind the scenes so that you understand that it's not about having the hustle culture where I say hustle and do 5 things. Oh, you can do it, do 5 million things at the same time. It's about saying the power of one, do one thing, do it well, and then expand it. And one wonderful way to describe that is what Kiki said about Laura Ikeji. Laura Ikeji started with one thing. She was just known for making people happy. She monetized it. What is that thing that you are known for? Do it so well that you can monetize it, which is where we're getting to. But simply put, a brand is what people say about you when you are not in the room. Okay, yes, it's the emotions that you make people feel. So at the end of the day, people will not remember what you said or did. They will remember how you made them feel. So when people think of your brand, Kiki, how do they feel? When they think about Pinkies, how do they feel? Do they feel like, oh, this woman has empowered me, even if I don't have money to pay for her services? I already know that I need to love myself and dress the way I should be, dressed in a certain way. What comes to their mind when they think of you? And it's important you think about that. They don't want a situation where you are making people feel less than themselves. You want a situation where you are making people feel like, you know what, there's something wonderful about me and I will figure it out at my own time, but I will start somewhere. Then the creative process of putting all this together. So one of them is a feeling, that is the brand, your brand. But now behind the scenes, I do the branding, you do the branding. So that's why we call it DIY branding, because we are doing it behind the scenes. Branding is now that process of bringing everything together. It's what entrepreneurs have used for years to be able to capture certain things and bring them into a way that people can feel the way they want them to feel. So we've said, I want people to feel this way. You've defined your brand. Now you do the branding. Most of the time, the branding is done by people like me and you for people. But most of you here doing DIY branding, you're doing it for other people or you're doing it for yourself. So all the process and everything you're doing to bring everything to ensure that you have a visual appearance that is in line with your brand message of simplicity, that is in line with your brand message of personal accountability, will not position you in the market in a different way. So your brand positioning is up to you. You determine how you want your brand to be positioned, but that is all done in your branding. You can read most of these things later, so I won't be saying word for word. I think I prefer us to have a conversation. So now we're looking at brand and branding. And the very first thing you should realize is there is no branding without the brand. To do the branding process, you first of all have to sit down and do the brand itself. So that brings us back to this conversation when we were having earlier on. We said, what comes first? And I'm glad that most people said their founder story and not logo. The mistake most people make is when I started to start a blog, I was like, oh, I want to start a blog. Oh, let me create a logo. I want to start a business. Most people say that, oh, I want to start a business. You have a business idea. Let me create a logo. Let me create this. Let me create that. You're creating your brand identity without creating your brand, which is who you are, what you stand for, and how you want people to see you. So we're going to be doing that. We're going to be going through a couple of documents. We're going to be filling the brand clarity document. We're going to be filling, let me take this down. We're going to be filling the brand clarity documents. We're going to be looking at your brand sound. That is your brand tone, your voice. I will explain that to you. And then finally, we're going to be looking at your goals, your priorities and goals. What are you going to do in 1 day, 1 week, 1 quarter, 1 year, 5 years? We can even add 6 months today and 10 years. Just write them down. We're going to do that today. So those are the 3 tasks you will have this week to look at. Then on Friday, we'll come back to discuss it. If anybody wants to send me theirs, they can send theirs to me for me to review. But if you've been given a brand to manage, now that you have that brand and you know what they want to do, what do you want them to achieve? What in 1 month, 1 week? And we will get into all that today. So let's get back to brand clarity. Why I always say don't do your logo and color first and your price first is this: we forget to calculate certain things when you are in a brand. So if you have done your logo, colors, and every other thing before you now choose your, and you've already chosen your price, people will not know how to communicate with you. So you have a situation where you want to create planners. You've already said, oh, I'm buying this planner from somebody for 20 naira. Oh, I will sell it for 30 naira and I'll make 10 naira. And then I'll be buying and supplying clothes. I buy for 20 pounds, I sell for 25. Oh, that's fine. That's what we do. Well, we forget that there are other things that go into the process. If I have to pay somebody to create something for me, a logo, I have to pay someone. We've already decided the price. Some of us have already told people, oh, I sell jeans at 10,000 naira. My jeans are 10,000 naira. You've not calculated every other thing into it. So my own will be logo, color, and all those things come at the same time for me, because it depends on my brand story and my audience. So one thing I missed out of there is audience, because you have to know who you are creating for. I call it the audience brand connection. Your audience is who you're creating for, but then there is someone that you are. And next week, we'll be looking at your audience in depth to know your brand is not for you. It's about you getting clarity and being authentic about who you serve and how you serve them. And clarity and authenticity are intertwined. So the brand name, if you have a question, you can type in the chat. I may go to the chat from time to time, but Comfort can read out the questions for me so I don't get distracted. Your brand name can be done with your brand story. So I didn't list everything that you should take into consideration. I just listed a few. Yes, your brand name can be this. You can decide to use your name. You can decide to use an acronym. You can look at who you serve. All that will be decided when you are during the branding process. Your brand name, you can decide to retain a family name. You can decide to use, oh, I want to use my name as a brand. But there are advantages and disadvantages of using your name and naming a brand. And that's another conversation on its own that we will not necessarily go into now. But I will put it among the things that we can do when we have our extra sessions. Why should you name your brand and why you shouldn't use your name? There are advantages. People can sue you. You have Jo Malone as a case study. I don't know if you know Jo Malone. You can Google it. She created a brand and she sold it years ago, but she sold her brand name as her name. And now what has happened is anytime that there is any controversy about that brand, people come for her, even if she has left the company years ago, but the company is still trading with her name. So there are advantages and disadvantages. And when we do a case study like Jo Malone and we study it so that we understand the impact of a name, we would then be able to see, Do you want to keep your name, or do you want to create a name that, in fact, if you decide to sell, the brand can outlive you? If you're passing from one generation to the other, it can still help you in a way without tarnishing your name. But yes, a brand name is important. But one thing you should remember is clarity and authenticity are intertwined. Now, let me stop sharing screen and see if anyone can tell me why clarity and authenticity are connected, are linked. Why do you think clarity and authenticity are linked? And for that, I will go to people that were in the last training that did brand clarity. And I'm sure you know yourself before I call you. We have the beautiful Timei, Comfort, and Enna. So you guys did the training last year when we talked about authenticity and clarity. Why are clarity and authenticity intertwined? Why are they linked? Can you think of a reason why clarity and authenticity will be linked? And what do you understand by brand clarity? What do you understand by brand authenticity?
So, brand clarity refers to the best way you can express your brand and what your brand is about. Identifying your brand voice, your brand story. Just getting to understand your real story behind your brand. While authenticity will now refer to your original idea or what your brand stands for. So brand clarity helps you to understand what your brand is about. Then authenticity is what your brand stands for. So they're intertwined in a way that if you don't know your brand authenticity, you can't express your brand clarity, basically.
Yeah, it's close. Yes. Yeah, authenticity is just about being authentic, being yourself, no matter who is watching. So you're not going to be a different person because, oh, this person is this thing. But the way I am authentic, and I am like that to every single person. Authenticity is being yourself and no one else. Like Temeye said, it's about understanding that, you know what, I am like this. This is who I am. Anybody that comes to me knows I'm an introvert, but I could be extroverted sometimes. You won't see me dancing unnecessarily because I want to attract people. You won't see me following every single trend just because everybody says you should do it. You won't see me doing a course where I don't have accountability. I am authentic to this extent that I believe that everybody that comes through the courses should be able to gain enough to stand on their own. That is the authentic me. Disney is they're authentic in providing you excitement. So even if they have a cartoon like Lion King, where Simba's father dies, Mufasa, they are still authentic in the way that they bring Timon and Pumbaa to liven the mood almost immediately. That is that excitement. They're not going to take from that part and take it into a horror, slow-paced movie. They're not going to change who they are. They are clear that we are an entertainment brand that brings excitement for families, and they are authentic in providing that. They are not trying to be like someone else. If you look at you can call any brand that you know that has lasted long, and they are actually authentic about who they are, who they serve, and how they serve them. I want to play a video that will talk to us a little bit about authenticity and how a brand can evolve themselves and come back to who they are. And
things you can't do as a classic brand.
Can you hear the audio? Did I share my audio? Let me stop sharing and I will
Yes,
share
ma'am,
it.
we can hear you.
Oh, you could hear the audio.
We can hear you, ma'am. Yes,
No,
ma'am.
can you hear the video I was playing?
Yes,
Yes,
we can hear you, ma'am.
All right, okay. So this is about a very old brand that we are also aware of, but let's hear what they have to say.
In those spaces, places you can't go, conversations you can't have that other people could.
You know, for us, we do what we love, and we don't really think about the boundaries. For us, being in business over 50 years, you have to constantly evolve and develop and look at new things. You know, sometimes it's the customer that changes, and there's generational shifts, and so you're forced to innovate.
How much Ralph Lauren do you wear versus not wear? Because it feels like on one hand, of course you would vote for yourself. Yeah. On the other hand, are you sort of a musician jamming out to your own album?
Well, first of all, since I work in the company, I'm proud to wear the clothes, yeah. But also it just feels right for me. You know, I've grown up in the company, I understand the philosophy of the clothes, and I've come to love it. I also know the stories behind every product. You know, I know the love and the attention to detail that's put into the product. So it becomes personal. It's 50 years of rich history and storytelling and goodness to it.
Fantastic. I'm sure all of you know about the brand Ralph Lauren. So it's been in existence for over 50 years, but they are authentic to who they are. And the way he spoke about the brand, you knew it wasn't just saying something he did not believe in. He said what he believed, and he says, yes, we can evolve, but we already understand the emotion and the story behind every outfit. So when it comes to your brand, you should understand who you are. They are authentic. They're not just going to follow trends because everybody is using video vixens. They will now decide to use video vixens. You can even see from their image, you can still get that classy element, the elegant element that Ralph Lauren stands for. The fact that it's what we call a winter brand. We'll go into that another time when it comes to brand styling. There are different brands, but winter brands, I will just talk about that. Winter brands are luxury brands. They are brands that are expensive. And from the quality of the little clip you could see, you could not see them trying to force it. They were just simply being themselves. When it comes to authenticity, you do not want to compromise who you are. You do not want to compromise what you do. So even in every single thing you choose for your brand style, you are authentic. So we talked about brand identity and brand branding and brand. So when it comes to brand identity, there are 4 things I will mention. These are not the only 4 things you should take into consideration. Yes.
So I want to add something on clarity. I think
Okay.
that's most of these upcoming brands tend not to put into consideration. I think we need to be clear on the benefit we're providing our customers with. So you need to have that clarity in mind that, okay, this is what I'm providing them with, and state it out. Okay, how am I going to do it? How long will it take me to do it? And what will it cost me to do it? So I think we need to be clear on that when creating a brand, having that clarity in this aspect itself. And authenticity is just being true to yourself, being you. When you're yourself, you put this consideration, okay, I'm creating this product for my customers. State why you're creating this product. Okay, Abaya is about modesty. Okay, Abaya, when we are Abaya, we just think like it's for a specific kind of people. But now we understand that, okay, no, it's not just for them, but it's for whoever that wants to dress modest. Anything that has to do with modesty should be what customers that feel they are talking to them will want to purchase goods and services from them. Then you tend to make them understand that this is why we are doing this, or this is why we're talking about modesty. And how long will it take them to tend to reach out to people in that same frame of mind? And what will it cost them to try to reach out to those clients or those customers that are keen about modesty? So I think when we're trying to talk about brands, or when brands are coming into existence, they should also try and clarify this aspect of why they're coming into
existence. Exactly. And the thing is, sometimes people will say, oh, my people they want to be authentic, but they are afraid that their authenticity will get them into trouble. They want to be clear. They're like, other people will say, why are we doing this? And the truth is, when you narrow your focus, you broaden your audience. For example, somebody that is serving introverts that are bookworms will get a larger audience than someone that says, oh, I just sell books for everybody. Now, as an introvert that loves books, I will be like, oh, you thought about me. So the way you will build your store will be different from the way somebody else will build their store. You will think about it. So someone that is selling cars to women that are busy mothers, the way the person will plan their store will be different between a man that just wants to sell fast cars, because that person has said, you know what? Women that have children, when they come in, they will want somewhere to keep their kids so that they can focus and buy the car. And even if it's 20 minutes, have conversations and have their questions answered, that will entice them. But a man thinking about selling cars will not take a woman's part into consideration. And a woman that wants to sell cars to men too also will not do that. But if you've narrowed your focus and you are clear about who you are, you are authentic about how you show up, you will attract the right people. So for example, if your brand is for Gen Zs, there's a way you will show up that you will not show up if you want to attract grandmothers. We are not interested in the same thing. Someone in their 20s and someone in their 50s are not interested in the same thing at all. Our focus is different. So if you remember that when you are trying to do your, because we'll go into clarity and authenticity in more details next week. When you're about to do that, you understand that I need to please this person. I need to satisfy this person. I need to solve the problem this person has. What is the problem a 20-year-old is going through? Oh, I need to get a job. A 50-year-old is thinking, oh, I want to retire. Are you giving them the same product? Even if you want to give them a loan, their repayment period is different. So bear that in mind when you are looking at this. I won't go into the logo, color palette, typography, and shape, but I would just say this. When you're doing your brand, you can read up on all these things. You need to choose the logo, the colors, your fonts is your typography, and shape that are in line with your brand image that you want people to feel. The colors you choose, read up on color psychology. I will send a couple of things on color psychology. White is a calming color. Red is a color that grabs your attention. What emotions do you want people to feel? I don't want to really give you things that I know you can read up, but things that we can chat about is what I want to work on. But just know this, there should be consistency when you choose your color to the color itself. Don't just say, my color is black. What is the code of that black that you use? My color is blue. There's a range of blue colors. When it comes to colors, what I will remind you is there is a color palette that you use for your brand. And you need to know that even the blues, they are different colors of blues. So you choose the color that you want your brand to be known for. So let's say I use blue. If I just said my color is blue, look at all the shades of blue that I can see here, and there's much more. So choose a color palette that has to do with what your brand wants to be known for. If your brand is about excitement, you can use this color. You can't say your brand is about excitement and then you're using white and cream like me. I want people to feel calm on my brand. My pop of color is cream and gold, is ivory. That's the pop of color that I choose to use. But some other brands, you see them, they use yellow. What emotion does yellow have? Canva has a very good article on color psychology. But remember that it's more than saying blue. For someone just say, what are your brand colors? You say blue. These are all shades of blue. This is dark blue, this is navy blue, this is blue, and this is blue, baby blue. These are all different shades of blue. It goes beyond saying a specific color, but you have to go get what we call the X code and use it consistently and have what we call a brand style guide, which you will all have at the end of this session. When we are through with your brand, you're going to get a brand style guide where you can keep your colors. But with Canva paid version, you have an opportunity to have all the colors that you are using put for you. So you are using the same shade. So if I want to change this color for another brand, all I have to do, because I use Canva, is go to the brand and then I'll be able to change the color and ensure that it's consistent. I can then apply to all pages and then they will show that it's consistent. But what we want you to do, what I just want you to know is your colors should be consistent. Do not just make changes. Ensure that there is consistency in the colors that you use at all times. Red is a color that people are saying don't use for your website because red signifies danger. But if your brand is a red brand, that's different. But every single color evokes a different emotion, and that's a big conversation on its own. But your colors, your shapes, your fonts, every single thing evokes a certain emotion when it comes to your brand styling. So brand styling is about having a consistent feel for your brand, so that when people look at your brand, they can see that there is a connection. So when people look at my brand, they see that, oh, my colors, my fonts, everything is consistent. When they look at a client's brand, they don't see gold today, red tomorrow, blue tomorrow, next tomorrow. They are getting the same feeling throughout everything that they do. And when we think about different things, we should understand that our brand is both, our vision is why we do what we do when it comes to branding. And our brand is both having a vision and taking an action. It's not just about having sales goals, but it's about having goals that are beyond how much money do I want to make. It's about ensuring that we have consistency in our style. This has to do with the voice and the tone of voice. And I will explain the difference between this. Your brand is how you sound. How many people remember EFCC's old page when F. Shaw was handling the page, where they were just always throwing shade and it was a fun page? How many people on Twitter know Wendy's? If you're on Twitter and you're regular on Wendy's, you understand the tone that they use. They are shady. They are not they are very, very, very witty. The way you speak as a brand, the tone of your voice, how you sound needs to be consistent. So there are words that will be used to describe your brand. For example, the words I use are not harsh. There are other teachers that are very, 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 very strict and say, oh, if you don't do this, how can you be this age and you've not done this? I don't use that tone of voice. My tone of voice is the same throughout. It's calm, it's reassuring, but it puts the responsibility on you, not on me. It's the strong emotion that I want to get from people that I get. But there's a difference between your voice and your tone of voice. Your voice is different from your tone of voice. Does anybody know the difference between both? Your voice and your tone of voice. I've put the answers on the screen. And one is fixed, one remains constant. The other one changes depending on the circumstance. For example, if I am excited and I'm just doing somebody, I'll be like, how are you? And if somebody else upsets me, I'll be like, how are you? There are two different things. One is changing depending on the circumstance. Your voice is a unique, distinct element of your brand's communication with customers. It's how you talk and it's how you don't talk. I mentioned that. That's your brand voice. So my brand voice is about simple, easy. I don't believe in the hustle culture. So I will not use the hustle culture rhetoric or the hustle culture voice to speak to you. I will speak to you in a reassuring way, in a way that will remind you that you are the best. That is the way I speak. It's simple language, but it's very reassuring. And the tone of voice is very, very important because they are like 37 full tone of voice. So you can look at it being, this article will be given to you, funny or very serious, formal or casual, respectful or irreverent, enthusiastic or matter of fact, funny or serious. Most pages are very serious. I don't want to be funny. I don't want to be too funny. I don't want to be too serious. I want to have kind of a casual tone of voice that anybody can easily relate with. Now, having said these four things when you're looking at your tone of voice, this is what I want you to think about. Serious, we shouldn't try to be funny while speaking to patients. So even if we are serious, as a doctor, you don't want a doctor's page that is cracking jokes. Do you want that? Do you want a doctor's page that is throwing shade and saying, no, you want a page that is serious, but they can be sympathetic. They are professional, but they are also caring. So the tone of voice, when you're filling your brand document is important, but this document gives you 37 tones of voice that are detailed. The authoritative, caring, cheerful, coarse, conservative, conversational, casual, dry, edgy, enthusiastic. These are just examples or more detailed examples of tone of voice. You have to be passionate about what you do. If you have a passionate voice, be passionate about what you do. If you have a voice that is very playful, you have to be playful. If you have a voice that is conversational, be conversational. If you have a voice that is authoritative, you will be authoritative. Now, how do you determine your brand voice and your brand tone of voice? It's simply this. It's simply how you talk and how you do not talk. I talk about discipline, but I do not talk in a way that is demeaning. That is me. So my tone of voice is casual. So if you have a brand, how do you want to talk and how don't you want to talk? Let's try that. Kiki, how do you talk and how don't you talk when it comes to your tone of voice? And then Light can try. How do you talk and how don't you talk?
Sorry, on what brand exactly, ma'am?
I'm just for a brand. You can just do for any brand. If you can do it for the brand that you're working on or this thing, how do you talk? Okay, let's say it's your personal brand. How do you talk and how don't you talk? For this example.
Okay, for my personality, basically, sometimes it's hard for me to be able to determine, my approach. Sometimes I get a little bit emotional about something. Okay. So it's hard for me to, but on a normal basis, when I'm not emotional, I'm sure that I would be able to talk to people calmly and then be encouraging. When I assume the position of leadership, basically, many times I don't use a hard tone on people. You know why? Because I strongly believe that there are so many whys in a system and in a process. So I feel that I should take my time to be able to explain to them all the time and all of that. So that's how I'll be encouraging. I'll be a little bit temperate, not.
Okay, fantastic. You've just described your voice and your tone of voice. You didn't even, thank you. You just described your voice and your tone of voice. You said, depending on the circumstance, my tone will change, but I am caring, encouraging, reassuring. So even if you are reassuring someone and you have to it depends on what is happening at that point in time. But no matter what, you will not belittle the person. So that is fixed. However, it is still very caring, reassuring, and encouraging. So that is the difference between your brand voice and your brand tone of voice. The tone changes, but the brand voice remains the same. It changes depending on the circumstance, but every other thing remains the same. So now we've talked, why are we looking at our brand voice, our brand tone of voice, and all these things? Because we want a situation where people come to us. People come to us and no one else. So we're just going to look at stage one, which is why. Why should people come to you? Why does my brand exist? Why did I start this business? And you have to answer these questions. What does success mean for me as a brand? How will I measure my success? And how will I achieve it? And how will I measure it? So for example, if I have a boutique, why do I have a boutique? Why does my brand exist? Remember, we said people don't buy what you sell, they buy why you sell. So the first thing I think about is why. Why does my brand exist? Why does Unlocking Creativity exist? So for those person doing for Unlocking Creativity, you have to answer this question. Why should people come to my consultancy firm and not another? Why did we start this business to help small businesses? What does success mean for my brand? Does success mean that I have raised 10 million or I've been able to help 10 brands grow? Does success for this course mean that I've been able to teach 50 people or I've been able to at least transform the lives of 20 people? What does success mean for you? Define success on your own terms or else the world will define success for you. How would I measure success? How will I know that I have succeeded? These are questions that every single person that owns a brand must answer. Why is especially this question, why should people buy from me and not any other person? Why? Why should they pay attention to Coke? Why do you buy Coke and not Pepsi? You get into a store, they're like, oh, do you have Coke? Yes. No, I have Pepsi. Oh, I don't buy Pepsi. I only drink Coke. Why should people take you first before your competition? Why should we be that, oh, if Kiki doesn't have this braid and this wig that I want to make, I'm not making my hair with any other person. Some of us are attached to some brands and it's either them or no one else. Now let's bring that home. Why you and no one else? Another set of questions you have to find out is what you do, because you've answered why you. Then what exactly do you do? Yeah, it's still the same question, but you're breaking it down. What makes you different from every other person? What makes you stand head and shoulder above your competition? You're answering the same question. It's so in-depth that even if somebody wakes you up, you have clarity, because we're gaining clarity by asking why first, then what next? What do you do better than anyone else? What is the goal for your brand, your church, and your ministry? Where do you find most inspirational about your business? What I find inspirational about the way I run things is I am not here to just sell some people a fake course or a fake idea that, oh, be a social media manager today because it's the cheapest way to make money. There are many people online doing courses like that. Be your own boss. I'm making you realize that you don't just work on your business, you work for your business. And in order for you to stand out, you need to stop and do your branding first. That's what makes me different from anybody else. What do I find most inspirational about what we do with Team Unlocking? I find the fact that we can take people that know nothing about content creation and then transform the way they see themselves and how they create content. That's what makes me passionate about DIY branding. DIY branding was my goal for DIY branding, that we should have trained up to 1,000 people and more that have been consistently giving accountability for themselves and building their own brands, and yet by passing the torch to others. What do I do better than anyone else? I see the potential in people. So I am answering the same question from here, because what I observe is when people feel uncomfortable answering questions, I've said, what do you do? What makes you different? I've answered those questions. We get that feedback from people sometimes. So when we are trying to get people to answer these questions, sometimes they give us the answers without us knowing. So what we do as brand strategists is, if your client hasn't answered this, based on what you've observed and what you would like to see in this brand, think about it. What makes the brand you've assigned different from others? What do they do? What makes them stand out above their competition? What makes them an inspiration for people to work with? What are their goals? And what do they do better than anyone else? If they don't do anything better than anyone else, then we have a blind spot to work on. If they do something better than somebody else, then we know that, yes, we can still improve, because this is now comes to how we do what we do. How do you sell your products and your services? You have to have clarity about that. Do I sell on Instagram? Do I tell people to DM me? Do I tell them to contact me on WhatsApp? Another reason it's important more than ever for people to know how you sell and how you receive payments. If it's been communicated on your page, for example, pay only to this account and somebody pays to another account. Anybody that drags you to any page, you can easily say, but it has always been stated that this is the only place I sell. But if people don't know and you leave it open-ended, they feel that, oh, I can pay into anybody's account. I can just do anyhow. I sell on WhatsApp. That is the only place I sell. If an Instagram page opens and tells you, I have opened an Instagram page, DM me, and you DM the person and buy from the person and the person sends you rubbish, I won't be held liable. If you notice it, even with churches, they've had to start announcing that we will never DM you. We will never, I don't know if anybody watches NSPPD, Pastor Jerry will say, we will never DM you to tell you to send the money to an orphanage. They are clear on where they are. To follow my page, if you follow another page, you will be held liable. We will not be held liable. Now, when it comes to employing people and people that work for you, how will you determine who works for you? My friend and I were joking. She was like, how do you measure? I said, someone that has sense and laptop, as long as you're ready, I will take you on board. But everybody has a 3-month period. So that is our way of saying, okay, are you a good fit for us? Are you not a good fit for us? Everybody has to determine who works for them, because anybody that represents your brand is representing everything you stand for when you are not there. That's why the face of the customer service person is very important for the brand. brand. The person behind the scenes may not be as important as the person in front or the person interacting with the customers, but even the person behind the scenes can cripple the brand. Who is doing your packaging? Who is the sales representatives that you've employed to speak to your clients? Who is the sales representative that you've employed in your store if you have a store? It's important that if your brand is about certain things, they smile in a certain way. You can't tell us that your brand is about having a friendly approach and you can't employ one person that looks like a bodyguard Torino to be your customer service and the person is not approachable. No one is going to come to you. If your brand is about approachability, those that are working for you should be approachable. If it's about integrity, they should have integrity. And the last how is you need to determine is how will you build credibility and confidence in your brand? And I'll pause here and talk for a while. Credibility is important. You want people to trust you. It's about building trust. Now, credibility is earned. It's not forced. You earn credibility. You do not force it from people. You earn trust. You do not buy trust. You do not buy followers. You do not buy things. You do not force it. You do not give and take. You do not say, oh, if you follow me, I will give you 5,000 naira all the time. I'm not saying don't give back to people. I'm saying that's not a way to earn credibility. That is not a way to earn trust. You earn credibility and trust by being consistent about what your brand stands for and what your brand does. So if your brand doesn't stand for anything or doesn't do anything, you will know that your brand doesn't do it. And anybody that sees you knows what your brand doesn't do. So credibility starts with you, is what I'm trying to say. To build credibility and confidence, you have to become credible, do things in a credible way, and be confident in what you are doing. If I wasn't confident in DIY branding, I won't be able to do it and I won't be able to sell it. And I won't be able to do what I do. If I wasn't confident in lessons from Israel stories, which has become lessons from stories, I won't be able to talk about it. I won't be able to give somebody else the reins to work on it. But because I have worked on it since 2016, we've worked on it, Reverend Vincent and I worked on it. I can now take it out there. Before you start determining credibility, that people see you as a credible and reliable source, be credible and have confidence in yourself. Then remember, and we'll talk about this in which we do marketing. Branding is not marketing. When your brand and your branding come together with strategy, purpose, and creativity, that is marketing. Most people brand and they don't market. So we are going to be going into how can we do content creation that markets. So there's a difference between content creation and content marketing. Most of what we do for people is content creation. We are going to have to start taking content marketing, and people have to be on to understand that there's a distinction between creating content and marketing content. And all that depends on your SWOT analysis. Everybody knows there's a SWOT analysis, your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So think about it. What do I do well? What are my weaknesses? What are my opportunities? And what are my strengths? If I look at this at a glance, I can tell you what my weaknesses are and how I am avoiding them. I can tell you what my strengths are and how I am improving them. I'm telling you what my opportunities are and how I am taking advantage of them. And I can tell you what the threats is that I will experience and about how the threats in our industry and how I am being intentional about not ignoring them, but using them as a sign, as a source of inspiration or a reminder of what can happen. One major threat to brands and businesses online is social media dragging. How do I avoid this threat that a business can go down in a day for my client? Is by ensuring that we are credible. So you will do a SWOT analysis for your business. Now the rest of the part is for us to talk about a couple of things that you'll be filling in your documents. So I'm just going to go through the documents now with you. You'll talk about your brand message, your brand values, your brand story, and a couple of other things. So let's just go straight to the Brand Clarity 2.0 document. So we've talked a little bit about this, but what I want you to do when you're filling these documents, we're going to go through this document in 5 to 10 minutes. Now that I'm going through this aspect, pause me anytime you want anything. I'm going to stop streaming now so we can, should we stream the documents, assignments separately, or should we put everything together? What do you people want?
Separately, please.
All right, so I'm going to stop streaming so that you can have access to this. Then what I will do is after, I will record this to the cloud, and then you will have access on Zoom to be able to watch